Hey folks, Dane Fordio here. As I am speaking, it is May 21st. On July 9th, we have something very special going on in Staten Island. It is the first show live on stage for Vagabond Repertory Theater Company in over 2 years. 2 years, I can't even hardly believe it, that we're going to be presenting a sort of a hybrid staged reading slash concert version of a scene that really not only did the first scene take on a life of its own, it got two sequels, which I can't believe that it got this far and it got this popular. And this is Daniel, my brother. And I'm sitting here with arguably one of the driving forces behind the success of these three scenes. The person who plays Madeline, who is the sister of the titular Daniel, and that is Shannon Shipp.
Hello.
Now, when I first dreamt up this scene, it was originally for something completely different. I was approached by a theater conglomerate in that was based out of New Jersey. They were looking to do virtual scenes where the theme was people who either have drug abuse problems or have family members who are dealing with drug abuse problems. And I came up with a particular scene. And when the guy asked me, well, who do you want to play the sister? Anybody, do you have anybody in mind? Without hesitation, I said, Shannon Shipp, just Shannon Shipp. And I do remember the guy was like, wow, you didn't even hesitate with that name. She must really be something. I was like, oh, she's definitely very talented. Well, Shannon, my first question is, what were your thoughts when I approached you with this theme when you first read it? What were the thoughts right away that you had?
When I first read it, I thought it was amazing. I was super excited. I remember just jumping up and down, and I couldn't wait to do this. And when I read it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so powerful!" And it just it made me feel like I was part of something bigger than myself, and I was just so happy for the opportunity.
When we first read through the scene, I believe we did it over Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
and you, without any prompting, you were making all of these character choices and the emotion and the power that you put into it. And I just remember in my head going, this is going to be a smash. This I can fully feel like this is going to be a hit. And I remember we because around the time when we were doing this, we were also in the middle of the Guardian game, which is another very fun show that we did.
Yes.
And when we used to practice Danny, my brother, and then as the palate cleanser, we would do the silly scenes from the Guardian game, if you remember that.
I do. I do.
Now, what do you remember any particular moment from the first script? I'm talking before this became a trilogy,
Yeah.
where you just looked at it and you knew that this was something that you really enjoy, like any particular moments?
I think it was the first time I acted out the big ending where she kind of breaks down and tells Daniel to get out of her room. Um, I think one, the writing blew me away, and how I kind of portrayed the character in that sense. I didn't think I was gonna do that, and then when we did it, and I broke down and kind of felt like I became that character. I just remember being, just so like filled with emotion and being just so amazed at this character and feeling connected with this character because I mean she's truly amazing, and the relationship between her and her brother, that was just the moment I felt was like my gosh, this is truly the best writing, the best thing I've ever heard or experienced. And I was just so blown away, and I was like, could be something. That's when I think I first felt like, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. Because I remember I was just crying during that scene without you telling me to, and I didn't even know if I was supposed to be crying at that moment, but
Well, yeah, it worked. So you did something. You absolutely did. When we originally did this for a scene showcase.
Yes.
And there was a moment, I'll never forget this, where my character tells off your character, has this big speech, this horrible, arrogant, nasty speech. And then you went dead quiet for about 3 or 4 seconds. And then you just went, get out.
Yeah, I remember that was the moment. Yeah.
And in that moment, I was just like, wow, like she just nailed it. I mean, you nailed it before, but when it came time to the actual performance, that's the moment that most people, when they listen to it, they were like, oh, that was the part that gave me chills, like that pause. And then when she whispered, get out, it's extraordinarily amazing.
That was the one line that told me that it's just gonna start like going through this, like, because she has to have these like many emotions in these like what 20 minutes, and I remember I wanted to make that line just amazing and just start off. I remember that comment from one of the other players during the scene showcase, and I remember feeling so touched when I received that compliment.
I want to say it was Genevieve who actually gave you that compliment. She was one of the players in another scene.
Mm-hmm.
But
it was I was scared for myself for saying that. I was like, whoa. it was amazing.
Well, I knew it affected me because like the way I visualized it, the character of Daniel is based off of 3 people that I knew growing up, 2 of whom passed away, who were dealing with substance issues and abuse and drug abuse problems. And I just channeled all that grief and anger that I felt about losing these 2 people. Well, the 3 people, if you count the fact that I have not spoken to the third person.
Yeah.
Substantially long time, and I wept like an infant after we finished that scene live. I literally had to excuse myself from the room. I was just like, that was just it could not have gone any better. And this was the summer of 2020. A year later, we revisited Daniel and Madeline in a scene called Finding the Lost.
Yes.
Now, I never really like to do sequels to scenes or shows that I write unless people ask for it and unless we have ideas. So many people said to me, well, what's going to happen now? Is that it? Isn't there more to the story? And I just remember thinking, well, there could be more to the story. And this was the more positive piece in the trilogy. Now, would you say that it worked better with the more uplifting stuff, or do you like the more dramatic aspects of the story?
Personally, in acting it out, I love the dramatics, and I love the screaming and the crying, and because it really shows the love and emotion between the 2 siblings and how everything just unfolds. But having those happy moments kind of showed why they were connected in the first place and how much they cared. So it made the dramatic moments just so more. It made the dramatic moments so much more better having the good moments and seeing how they were, it just, I find it also helps.
When I looked at the three scenes combined together into one show,
Mhm.
I realized I'm like, there needs to be some kind of uplifting moment because if it's just straight like bad, 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 bad news,
Yep.
we don't want people to be like, oh, oh, oh. We want people to have at least a glimmer of hope
Yeah.
because sometimes in these situations, things like that do happen. Um,
People need hope, and even if life's not a fairy tale and it does actually fall apart in the end, it was good to have at least one happy moment throughout the trilogy.
and I do have to thank Shannon for coming up with the title of Finding the Lost because I
Yeah.
originally I originally had it as part because Daniel, my brother, of course,
Hmm.
is part of an Elton John song. My original title was Daniel, You're a Star, which is the same part of the song. And Shannon was just like, no, 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 no.
Let's see. No, 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 no. I don't think they did.
I mean, I'm not saying that you said it in a bad way, but you were just like, ding, no, 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 no.
He's like, Jane, could we maybe see other options for this title? It should be something cool or something, awesome to say. I don't know.
Upon retrospect, I'm kind of glad that you said that because calling it Daniel, You're a Star would have been very corny. And it would have been one of those things where I'm like, why did I go with that title? It's so stupid. So you came up with the title, and I was just like, oh my God, that works. That it fits the motif and it fits the theme of the scene. It's perfect.
Yay.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that Shannon had some very great story ideas that were incorporated into the second scene as well.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess my next question, which I probably should have asked you a little bit earlier, but without you don't have to go into detail, but when you tap into these emotions that you tapped into as Madeline, especially in the first and the third scene, were there
Mhm.
any specific people or specific thoughts that you had that you were like, all right, I have to tap into this to get the emotion for this scene?
Believe it or not, this is something I thought so much about when I was practicing on my own. I was like, how am I going to be Madeline in this particular moment? And when I was her, I was honestly imagining, this happening to me as if, my own family or, some close friends had gone down this road and I tried to help them and they just couldn't be helped. And, having to lose the love that, we had or, having those strong connections with people and then having this huge fight with them or seeing them go down this road. That's what I was imagining during this time. I was imagining, all of this stuff happening to them and me having to watch it. And, I just made it personal. And I think that's how I got the best uh, part of the role that I got of being Madeline.
That feeling of helplessness, like, this person is self-destructing in front of me and I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it was a hard scene to think of how I'm going to do it because I had to think of so many people or I had to think of one really close connection and just have it blow up in my face. But I knew after the scene was done that it wasn't real and that this was just amazing what had just happened. And I know those connections weren't actually real, but it made it feel so real and it made it just have a light bulb in my head go on and just it felt so awesome to do.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't
And
have done it.
And it also doesn't hurt that you played fantastically off of Mr. Jackson Babyliss as Austin,
Mhm.
who will be in the July 9th performance because he's fantastic too.
Jack Jackson is an incredible actor to work with. I was so um, pleased that when Dane told me I was going to be playing opposite of him.
I mean, let me tell you something. Not that I want to steer this in a completely different direction, but Jackson, he's a very quiet kid, very, keeps to himself, and he just becomes these characters. Like he'll just be like, I'll just be like, all right, Austin, you're playing the boyfriend of Madeline, and you're very loving, and you're very, you would do anything for Madeline. Oh, okay. And he snaps right into it, and I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, I do too. He's such an amazing actor, and getting to experience that. I mean, he played in the. I remember like you first mentioning, oh, this is going to be your boyfriend Austin, and I was like, great. And then I actually saw him act in the second, and then again reprising his role in the third, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, great chemistry between the two of you, and it works very well. So, Finding the Lost came out in 2021,
Yes.
and I thought that was going to be the end of it. But once again, people started calling, people started coming up to me.
Yep.
There's got to be more. Is it going to end like that? Is there more to it? And I'm just like, a second sequel? Are we talking trilogy here? Like, I think we are. So I started writing
Mhm.
um, the third trilogy, The Loss of a Brother, with the thought of no, this is definitely going to end on a more somber note.
Mhm.
And finally, the character of Daniel goes down the tubes completely,
Yep.
and Madeline just can't handle it anymore in terms of she just totally gives up. And this was another moment from you towards the very end
Yeah.
as your character slaps Daniel and Daniel's about to go out, and you were just like, yeah, that's right, go. And you just all of a sudden you just choked out a second, go. I was just like, oh, this is it. She's strapping the rocket on. This is going to be amazing. Uh, but what I think is just amazing is how Shannon is able to tap into these emotions, and then she's able to be like, so how was everybody's day?
I tried to keep it light and positive, and I remember after recording that scene, I was like, okay, so was that good? Did I break up? And then everyone was just quiet, and I was like, sorry, I'm trying to lighten the mood. After having, because I had chosen not to do it in cuts and to go right through, so having that happened, and then the pitiful scream, and then right into the monologues. That way, I was just ready to go, and
The
just I needed to keep feeling the emotions.
another that was another part where people said when she screamed that scream of agony,
Mm-hmm.
it gave several people were like, "Oh, I got chills from that. I got chills." And it was just amazing. And I can also now say that Shannon is a co-writer for The Loss of a Brother because I was absolutely stuck on Madeline's final monologue. And you remember where I was like, "Do you have any suggestions for what I should have her say?" And you were just like, "Give me a little bit, and I'll get back to you." Like you must have had something planned already.
A little bit, maybe. A little bit. Yeah. I other than like the where I suggested the pitiful crying of the no after she sees Daniel, I was like, you know what? There, I was like imagining what she would say to him, like if she had gotten a chance. If you like, because I imagine all these like movie endings in my head sometimes, and I was just imagining, what would my character say to this person who she loved, and then, you know, wasn't this person anymore?
Were there any specific movies that you had in mind, or just movies in general?
I think I just wanted to make the perfect ending for her, and I didn't really have any particular movie in mind. I was just like, I want it to be like that solemn movie ending. It needs to have that perfect closure for Madeline, because she needs it, she deserves it, and obviously she grows up to be a very successful author about this whole experience. But I needed to have that last, moment of her just being like, you were right, Daniel, life sucks. But this is what I'm feeling, and you need to know that, because we messed up, and that's life.
You know, Shannon was like, "Do you mind if I wrote down a monologue. Do you mind if I just run it by you and you can see how it sounds?" Like, yeah, sure, Shannon. And then you launched into this sobbing, emotional monologue the whole way through. And then when you finished, you were like, "So what you think? Did you like it? What you think?" And I'm just sitting there like, "That was beautiful, Shannon."
Yeah, I remember practicing that about a couple of times in the mirror before I actually did it for you, just to make sure that it was good. And then I was like writing my revisions while I was like crying while writing it, and then being like, "No, go back, now cry for this line and see how that sounds."
I'm just very shocked that when you let out your no, we didn't hear any of your family members go, "What's going on in there?"
Yeah, I did warn them that I was going to be doing this scene. I was like, "Oh, guys, by the way, you might hear a lot of screaming coming from the basement of which I was doing this in. Just don't, whatever you do, don't go downstairs. Okay, I'm not being murdered."
When we did the first scene in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
I told my parents, I'm like, "Listen, I'm gonna be screaming and cursing in my room.
Mm-hmm.
We're recording something. Don't worry." But I forgot to tell them during the third one. So I'm sure people noticed that I wasn't as screamy and loud in the third one. That's
Mm-hmm.
because there was a bunch of people downstairs. I was like, it's too late to warn them now. So I'm going to have to just do the speak scream, where you speak like this, even though you're not actually screaming, like turn it into like a David Lynch thing.
Mm-hmm.
My one regret is that I didn't put my full effort into that one, unfortunately, but it was still good. The whole thing turned out to be wonderful. And now, as I looked at these three scenes, I just kept saying to myself, we could form one cohesive story with it. And we added a little bit of context in the beginning of Madeline as a younger child, who will be being played by Megan Shipp, who Shannon knows very well.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully. I
Hopefully.
mean, as far as I know, I was told by sources that she's in, so I don't know. We might have to edit this part out.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Megan's my little sister, but she's a really good dancer, and I remember asking her first about doing one of the other shows you wrote, Tom Waits, and her just being like, "Sure, why not?" And And seeing her act through a couple of the things you've done, it's just, I find it so uplifting for my sister to see my sister do this stuff. She's like, "Oh, Shannon, you're the actress. I'm not gonna bother with that stuff." And then she does these roles, and it's so cool.
I mean, I it was my understanding that people were like, oh, she likes to focus on ballet. She's not an actress. She doesn't want to do that. And then, but the more I listen to her, the more I'm like, she's a pretty good actress. I'm not sure why she thinks she's not.
She's good. She can do it if she wants to.
Yeah, I that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
But we're almost about a month and a half away from performing this on stage.
Yeah, I mean this has meant so much to me. I have to thank you, Dane, for everything from the beginning. Just putting this together, writing it, involving me without hesitation, because it's meant the world to me. And I don't usually watch my shows because I can't stand to hear myself, or I can't stand to be like, oh, I messed that up in some way. No, these are the only three shows that I constantly go back to and listen into, and because I don't know, they just affect me so much. I remember before I did the third one, I listened to the first one again, and I was just blown away. I was like, whoa, that's not me, is that? Because I mean, it was just so powerful and moving every time.
I mean, I picked you for this role. You were the only choice because I was like, she is so talented. She can do comedy and she can do drama. Because I mean, if you listen when we did the Guardian game, you were funny. You had great timing, and there were several moments where I was like, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Thank you.
And like I, you're able to play so many different characters. I mean, you've been in quite a few of my virtual shows, and I've tried to give you different kinds of characters to play, not just the same types of characters over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you consistently amaze me because you're just able to just be like, oh, I play this character, okay. Oh, you want me to play this character, okay. And it's just like, wow, like, hey, Broadway, if you're listening, like, somebody please scoop this actress up and give her like a million zillion dollars, please.
Thank you. Too kind.
um do you have any final messages for you know anybody listening who has listened to these scenes, and whether they themselves are feeling anything, or they know somebody who is going through these kind of problems?
I want to say first, thank you. It has been a long road, but a good one. And though, if this is happening, even if it is hard, try to remember the good moments, the people who you love, because they're still in there somewhere. Even though, people are dealing with addictions that can be truly hard to handle sometimes. Just stick with them because you love them, and though it can get really hard, um, just always remember that, because that's, I think, the biggest message from these shows. 'Cause she in the end loves her brother, and I know I love this show. It's always going to be a part of me, and I'm glad that other people were so touched to want more from it. And it's been the last 2 years of my life, because I remember doing this first when I was 13, and now I'm 15. And thank you, because it's meant the world.
Well, you are very welcome. Well, thank you very much, Shannon, for taking the time to talk with me about this. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I am Dane Forgione, and coming July 9th at Nothing New Thrift Shop. Going to be great. They have a great cast on hand, and I'm looking forward to putting it on. So thank you very much.
Thank you.